leverage is not based on how big you are. It's not based on how much money you have. It's not based on how many employees you have. It is a fact-specific inquiry. How much do you need a deal? How much do they need a deal? What's your plan B relative to their plan B? Let me give you an example. Right after Hurricane Katrina hit, in the negotiations between the U.S. government and housing contractors in the New Orleans area that had temporary units of housing available, who had the leverage? The housing contractors. You say, wait a second, Marty, how is that possible? I mean, the U.S. government has 5 million employees. They've got the most powerful military our world has ever seen. They've got the ability to print money. How did these tiny little housing contractors have all the leverage in dealing with Uncle Sam? Well, let's analyze this. How desperate was the U.S. government to take care of those people that were stuck in the Superdome right after Hurricane Katrina hit? Well, the U.S. government was pretty desperate. How desperate were the housing contractors for business? They were interested in more business, but they certainly weren't desperate. So I'd say on the level of desperation scale, I'd say advantage contractors. What about their respective plan Bs? What was the U.S. government's plan B to take care of those people in the Superdome? Every single day that they didn't take care of those people in the Superdome, what was happening? There were cameras. It was on the news. And every single day it was pointing to the U.S. government as what? Ineffective. In fact, their plan B was getting worse and worse and worse. What were the housing contractors' plan Bs? Well, they had their own customers. They were doing fine. Again, it's not about how big you are. It's a fact-specific inquiry. If I have a small software company and I've got 100 employees and I'm losing money, okay, and let's say I can't make payroll in 3 months, I'm desperate. But if Google and Apple and Facebook all want me, who has the leverage? I do. I have 100 employees. They've got unlimited amounts of money. I've got the leverage because I've got a really good plan B. And by the way, you can create this leverage. When do you walk away? When do you walk away? Well, at the end of the day, if I got a better plan B, I'm going to walk away. By the way, if I have a really, really good plan B, what do I usually want to do?
Get to the plan B.
I want to share it. I want to share it. If I got a good plan B, here it is. Walmart, hey, look at conference rooms B and C and D and E and F. If I got a really, really bad plan B, what do? I hold my cards really close to my vest. Right? By the way, when Ari walks out, what's he doing? He's saying, I got a better plan B than even talking to you. Now, he may not. I've got to make that evaluation. A classic bluff is I'm trying to create the perception I got a better plan B than I do. And to the extent that you carefully not only ask questions, but listen and hear and understand what they're saying and how they're communicating, you should be able to ascertain and evaluate not only what is their plan B, but evaluate how good their plan B actually is. Does that make sense? You have weak leverage. You have weak power. My advice, change it. Now, I don't mean to be flip by saying change it, but you have concrete practical steps that you can do to create a better plan B. By the way, raise your hands again if you're a litigator. Okay, so what's your name?
Derek.
Derek and? Jan. You know, if I give the exact same case to Derek and Jan, they have different leverage? How's that possible? It's the exact same case. Different leverage. Well, let me tell you a little bit about Derek and Jan. Jan, for those of you who don't know, most amazing, incredible litigator on the western part of the United States. Everybody knows when Jan's got a case, judges rubber stamp her summary judgment motions. Juries eat out of the palms of her hands. Unbelievable. You like this scenario so far, don't you, Jan? Yeah. You know where I'm going with this, Derek?
I have an idea.
You have an idea. Derek, by contrast, never had a jury trial. Someday, you may be as good as Jan, not today. Okay? Same case. Jan's got leverage, Derek doesn't. You have the ability in your negotiations to change your leverage. Jan changes her leverage when she undermines the credibility of the other side's expert, when she overcomes that summary judgment motion. Changes leverage. Sometimes people who are bombastic, how do you deal with people that are bombastic? Sometimes the reason they're bombastic is to cover up the fact that they really don't have a good plan B. You know what, if I have a good plan B and I'm dealing with someone who's bombastic, I have the ability to walk away. I don't have to deal with them. And I may not be equally as bombastic. I probably would not be. I can be very, very professional and say, look, and I understand what you're doing. I appreciate, but you know what? We just picked our jury, and the jury is fantastic. Or one of the questions here is, how can you be polite and pleasant but tough? Tough, you can be tough if you have a good plan B. You don't have to be mean-spirited. You don't need to be bombastic. You don't need to hit someone over the head with it. All you got to do is share it. Hey, look, Facebook, I appreciate the fact that you want me. So does Google. So does Apple. So does Microsoft. And I'm highly price sensitive, and so we're going to have a little auction here. Or if I'm if I'm a mergers and acquisitions lawyer, or if I'm in private equity, or I'm an investment banker, we create leverage by bringing more parties to the table. There are other ways that we can influence the process. Any questions about leverage? Couple of issues up here. When do you walk away? What do you do if you have weak leverage? How do you develop a plan B? Right, 9:30 in the morning, I'm calling up other plan Bs. Investment bankers, they create leverage by bringing plan Bs to the table. They sell their Rolodex. If you're a lawyer, your track record, your ability to take that case all the way through trial and have a positive result actually creates leverage. When do you walk and not leave money on the table? Well, you've got to make an evaluation, because sometimes if we push too hard, they'll do what? They will walk away, but in most cases, not all cases, but in most cases, they will only walk away if they evaluate their plan B as better. And so if you can find out what their walk away is, what their plan B is, it gives you the context in which to know how hard to push. Now, sometimes people will walk away when their plan Bs are worse. They're not making strategic decisions. And sometimes their strategic decisions are overwhelmed by emotion, psychology, other components of the process. And we're going to talk about that. But in most cases, you're dealing with rational, logical human beings, and they're making rational, logical decisions in terms of when to walk and when to sign. Timing is oftentimes really crucial as it relates to leverage. Because those of you who are litigators know sometimes you're going to have a higher likelihood of success on a summary judgment motion or at trial before you share certain information, before certain depositions have taken place, or maybe after those depositions have taken place if you've had the opportunity to undermine the credibility of the other side's expert, or to set it up for summary judgment, right? Or sometimes if you're trying to sell someone's company and you've got a couple of bidders, you better strike while the iron's hot, because sometimes those bidders are going to walk away. And then you're charged with what? Trying to create the perception that they didn't walk away. And now we're going to start to talk about some ethical problems. This next video clip is from Mary Upchurch. Mary Upchurch is the former head of AT&T in Arizona. And she's going to share what she has found to be her most effective negotiation strategy. Obviously, it relates to leverage.
One, a very familiar term, you have BATNA, know what your best alternative is, so that you can remain grounded in what you're trying to accomplish and where your choices are. And the second thing is that while still keeping focused on your targeted outcome, don't get invested in the path that you thought was the best way to get there from here, because that actually shuts down dialogue. It allows the emotionalism to creep in and the opinions, and so it's probably a different way to express what Yuri put in the book about trying to expand the pie. If you get more focused on not only what you're trying to accomplish, but the fact that there may be 50 different ways to get there, you only thought of 2, and your 2 may not be working, but the other side may have 4 more to offer, and you're still achieving what you want, and doing it in a way that facilitates both sides. That I usually find that allows the appropriate amount of dispassion to allow the process to actually function to the best results for both parties.
Okay, so what's Mary Upchurch talking about? If you create a better plan B, it can give you so much power oftentimes that it opens up and allows you to be flexible and to explore ways to satisfy mutual interests in a negotiation.